Alrighty guys, I just want to say a couple things today. First thing that I want to say is if we look at, so basically we fell down from the $1.70, $1.71 right here, and we fell all the way to a low of that 90 cents, but that like hit for like a couple seconds and it ended up closing up 20% from that low. Since then we did hit a low of 97 cents. And then we had a little bit of a rally. We hit 97 cents here again. But then we had a little bit of a rally to $1.40. And then we came all the way down to $1.03. And then we started working our way back up. And today they try to bring us down and we don't go below that $1.03. Makes me feel pretty confident we're not going below $1. You'll see a lot of screenshots on Twitter and stuff where people are posting the bid and the ask order book and showing how there's like 1 million on each side. I'm super confident that below at the dollar mark and below, all those orders, all those bids that you're seeing are retail, and that they love buying this stock below $1, just like they did back in March. Below $1 has always been a big buying opportunity for retail, and so if we go below $1, I believe it'll be the last time, and that we'll finish whatever we need to do or whatever shares we need to buy to completely own the stock. Typically, I feel like a squeeze is going to happen on a Monday, just because that's what they did with AMC. But AMC was different because they controlled the squeeze, and they had 60 million shares, which was like $2 billion worth to dilute during the squeeze to control the squeeze. So they were able to, as they sent it up 500%, they were able to sell $2 billion worth of shares, so that there wasn't more buying than shares available on the order book. Well, with Muln, it's going to be completely different, because like when this hits $5, the total market cap is going to be $2.5 billion. At $5, 500% up is when the 2.5 billion FOMO is going to come in. So there's going to be more buying than total market cap at one time. I truly believe that. Or we're going to go straight to 20, and then the buying's going to come in and only be 25% of the market cap. Like, we could literally go from $1 to 20 in a day. Probably won't. It'll probably go from $1 to $10, and then $10 to $15, and then $15 to $25 in like 3 or 4 days. But anything's possible. And so we got 1.8 billion volume shares traded since our last dilution announcement. That's pretty huge. I thought we might get a dilution announcement today. Doesn't look like it. This next Monday is going to be the longest they've ever waited to give a dilution announcement. And we're about to cross the 2 billion share mark, which is besides one time where we traded 3.5 billion shares in 2 weeks. This is going to be both the longest amount of time that has passed and the most shares traded since we've gotten a dilution announcement. So it is safe to assume the dilution announcement's coming on Monday. And if we don't squeeze this week, then we squeeze on Monday. But like I was trying to say is we could squeeze any day, and it doesn't have to be a Monday, because this is not a controlled squeeze. This is the first squeeze that we're ever going to see where retail truly owns every share of the stock. And besides maybe a little bit of insiders like David Mickery, he might keep 7 million shares or whatever. But like outside of that, we're going to own 99% of the shares, where AMC never got above 95%. And that 5% is a big difference. So with all that said, what I'm getting at is we could squeeze any day this week. If we finally buy that last share and it happens this week, then it's going to squeeze this week. There's nothing they can do to stop it. But if somehow we don't finish it this week and we go to Monday and we get that dilution announcement and they show that they only have 10 million shares left to dilute to retail, you better believe retail's going to show up real quick with that final 10 million. I don't really see that happening. Also with the dilution vote on the following, so not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, I just do not believe that they will allow this stock to squeeze after we vote no on a dilution, and it's like a very public vote and everyone's holding their breath to see what happens, and then it squeezes. Like, that's the worst way for them to let this squeeze, because it's the most reassuring and It's the easiest way to justify that this is a short squeeze, because retail owns the float and they ran out of dilution, and if we run out of dilution, we squeeze. And that will teach retail investors for generations to come, and I don't think they want that message being so obvious. Obviously, I make it pretty obvious, but I'm the only one talking about it. Nobody else in the whole world talks about it. And so if they let that vote happen and we vote no, and then we squeeze a couple days later, like, I just feel like that'd be too much attention that they don't want. And so I'm still feeling like we squeeze this week, or maybe Monday of next week we start to squeeze. And it wouldn't surprise me to see David Mickery take the vote off the table and not even have the vote. That's what they did with AMC. Yeah, I mean, the price action looks good. The volume is amazing. Besides, like, the last 5 days just being crazy low volume, one thing you got to love about what we see in every day that's trading is the first hour of the day, we see the price move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, and then we see them drop the price as volume disappears. And it's basically, there's no more retail buy. Like, retail, like, loads up their money, they send a wire transfer, whatever, and then the cash clears in the morning. They fucking load the boat every morning. They don't care about the price. And then there's very little retail buying after that. And so it's much easier much easier for the market makers to control the price throughout the day. But that first hour, every time you see the stock move up and then slowly start to grind back down, that's just confirmation that retail's buying every morning. And so when you see, like this morning, it was, I want to say 15 million shares traded in the first hour and a half. Like, probably half of that, $6-7 million, is retail money going in. And same with yesterday and the day before and the day before that and the day before that. And when we hit these 130 million volume days, we're probably doing 25 million that day. And so I think another 25-30 million day from retail will be enough to squeeze, which means we got to see like 150 million volume. But yeah, I mean, even if it keeps going 30 million at a time for the next 7 days, like, that's still going to put us in the same ballpark, because every day, every time we do 30 million in volume, retail's coming in with $2 to $5 to $6 to $7 million of buying power every day. And you can see it in the mornings if you watch the morning opens. That's retail buying power every time. Yeah, and so one of these days you're just going to see on the order book on the ask side, they're just going to disappear. No more asks. No more selling. No one's selling. I promise. It's coming soon, people. Last thing I want to go over. So I bought just a couple more. I bought 23 positions on July 29th, but I got the 123 on the August 19th. What I want to go over is, when you look at the volume, usually about 70 to 80% of the volume traded, especially if the stock price isn't moving much, usually about 70 to 80% of the volume gets added to the open interest the next day. And that's buying power of call options. If we go through today, there was probably about 20,000, 25,000 contracts traded today. There was 2,500 contracts at the 750 strike for 10 cents a contract, maybe 5 cents a contract, depending on what price they were able to fill at. But that's basically $25,000 somebody threw in there. $15,000 to $25,000 somebody threw in there. This 1.4K right there, times that by the 20, and that is almost $30,000. This is $15,000. The 6K is a lot. And so when you see a lot of option buying power like this is what, like, a lot of retail investors are looking for before they buy into. So as long as that keeps going up, I'm convinced that retail will show up this week. As long as options keep getting bought, I'm convinced retail stock buyers will show up. They love to follow the option buyers because they basically got no risk. They'll say, oh, these guys think it's going to move up that quick. I don't know if it's going to move up that quick, but I think it's going to move up. So I'll buy stock while they're buying options. Like, that's literally how it works, people. That's how squeezes start. That's how this movement started, and that's how we're gonna finish it. Go buy your options.